Now, one of the nation's largest electrical distribution providers is finding growth in a new market. Pike Electric is setting up shop in the East African nation of Tanzania. The company is going to expand electrical distribution lines throughout the country. Eric Pike is the chairman, president, chief executive officer of Pike Electric, and he's our guest now for a CEO sit-down. Eric, good to have you with us here on Bloomberg.
Thank you so much, Pimm.
All right, now, before we get into the details of the project in Tanzania and the transmission line business and grids and so on, tell us a little bit about your background, because as we were talking during the break, even though you've got a family connection, obviously, to Pike Electric, you've been up and down poles. You've actually strung the lines.
Yeah, Pimm, that's right. I did. I started my career out in the field, building power lines, and worked myself up in a crew to run a crew, but was very fortunate to come in as the company went through a great growth period, and was lucky enough to be in a presidential role at that point of the company when we took it public. And we've been public since 2005, and now we're starting our first international operation. So it's very exciting to be here today, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, so talk about those international operations. I mean, how did you get all the way to Tanzania?
Well, we had a partner company that we have been working with, in which is Symbian Power. They had some experience in Tanzania. This was a large project, bigger than they wanted to take on in themselves.
What is 120 megawatts?
No, this project is going to entail building out about 2,200 miles of brand new power infrastructure.
2,200 miles?
Yeah. And so together we bid this project. It was a Millennium Charter Compact project, which is funded partially through the U.S. government and also through the Tanzanian government. And we will be building out new lines that don't exist at all today to villages all throughout the country of Tanzania. And it's very exciting.
And what's the timeline for something like this? How long is a project like this going to take?
Our timeline is we will be substantially complete with all of the installation. Perhaps a bit of the removal may run over, but we will run this project through December of next year. And in total, Pike will install in the Dodoma region of Tanzania about 12,000 new poles and a little over 1,000 miles of new power line.
Now, obviously, that's going to be bringing electricity to residential customers. What about the commercial aspect of this?
This will also, in the more developed cities, it will certainly improve reliability to the commercial customers. But what we have seen is in any of the smaller villages, once power is applied or is available, they immediately begin to grow and become population centers, and you see businesses start beyond just the rural village trading. This is a really exciting thing for our employees, Pimm, because we have 9 of our foreman lineman trainers that went over, and we have about 60 Tanzanians that work for us in country now. And so they are getting to do really what their grandfathers did in building out the first infrastructure in a country. So,
now, talk about infrastructure, just to switch from what's going on in Tanzania to what's going on in the United States. Infrastructure, a hot topic here, because people are always bemoaning the state of the infrastructure, particularly the transmission grid in the United States. Right. What have you seen in terms of any rehabilitation or redevelopment of the grid here?
We have seen a sustained pullback in the distribution market for several years, but that is starting to come back now. We're beginning to see some improvement in the distribution market across the country. The transmission market, we are beginning to see more and more projects in the bid flow, but some of the projects, because of the FERC regulations and the interstate need to cross state boundaries, they're still waiting on some of that legislation to allow them to cross state lines.
You're still looking for some consistency.
Right.
Yeah. All right, we're going to continue the conversation. We've got more with Eric Pike of Pike Electric, more with our CEO sit-down. This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Pimm Fox. We're talking about electrical power with Pike Electric's Chief Executive Officer, Eric Pike. Eric, talk a little bit, if you can, about the sort of fragmented nature of rules and regulations in the United States and how that plays into the whole idea of trying to refurbish and build out the infrastructure here in the country.
Yeah, Pimm, one of the things that the utility customers, our customers, are facing is the uncertainty around the FERC rulings of interstate condemnation of land versus states' rights.
Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
That's correct.
Okay.
And you know, some of the large transmission projects that are on the board being drawn, they need to cross state lines. And as of yet, there's not been a lot of federal rule making that has allowed that to happen. So some of those are on the drawing boards. We actually are engineering some ourselves, but we're waiting for that ability to either attain right-of-way or cross state lines. And when they do, I think you're going to see more of these infrastructure build-outs.
Now, we were talking during the break, though, that when you compare it, let's say, to the natural gas industry, they already can cross state lines, and that's a power source. What's up with electricity? Why is that treated differently?
That's true. The difference really is a regulatory one. The agency that oversees gas transmission was able to achieve interstate rulings, whereas as of right now, the FERC has not been able to do that. So a lot of the utility customers that we have are still waiting for that resolution.
Tell me about alternative energy. I know you're working on a big project in Southern California.
Yeah, we're real excited about that project. It is the largest solar project currently under construction in the U.S. It's called the Ivanpah Solar Project. It's in Southern California, and one of our subsidiaries, Klondike Construction, is actually installing all of the power, underground power lines, and doing the tie back to the grid to bring that power into Southern California.
All right. Thank you very much. You ever miss going up on those poles and stringing those lines?
Well, I've told my workforce that at some point I will climb one in Tanzania just to prove that I still can. But well yes, done. I do.
All right. We'll want to picture that when that happens. I want to thank you very much, Eric Pike, Chief Executive of Pike Electric. All right. Coming up tomorrow on Taking Stock, the state of the housing industry. Mortgage application numbers, they're going to be coming out. How bad loans and foreclosures continue to drag down the sector. We'll find out more. Thanks for taking stock. I'm Pimm Fox. Good night.